2012 Shelby GT500. Of course, this is the most powerful, most expensive version of the Mustang. Big V8 in the front, rear-wheel drive, 6-speed manual transmission, enough power to put a smile on pretty much anyone's face.
For the 2012 model year, they came out with a new engine. It was an aluminum block as opposed to the old iron block V8. It was over 100 pounds lighter, in fact. 550 horsepower, 510 pound-feet of torque. This is actually an evolution of the engine found in the Ford GT. It would do 60 in a little over 4 seconds and the quarter at about 12.
Now that's fast. The problem is the next year, in 2013, Ford released a Shelby GT500 with 662 horsepower. So you can imagine anyone who had just bought their fancy new Shelby felt a little bit disappointed. This 2012 has been upgraded. It's got the supercharger from the 2013-14 generation GT500. It's got an exhaust, a tune, and some other modifications that bring the power up to a dyno-confirmed 663 wheel horsepower and 625 wheel pound-feet of torque, which is more than a stock 2014 GT500. So this thing is pretty damn fast.
When the Shelby was new, it had a base price just under $50,000, which is a tremendous value for the amount of performance you can get for the car. Optioned up with the SVT performance package, the electronics package, it would be just under $60,000, mid-50s. The interesting thing is now, if you go and shop for a used 2012 Shelby GT500, you'll find the prices that are pretty much between mid-40s to 50, which means this thing has suffered almost no depreciation. They hold their value extremely well.
And that's surprising to me because when the 662 horsepower version came out, you'd think that these would plummet. But the same thing holds true for that variant. They didn't really lose much value at all. Another 5,000-10,000 over this. Now, of course, there's a lot of performance for the money, but there are some shortcomings because of that. It's got a solid rear axle, which means any bumps in the road, if it hits the right tire, the left tire is going to move as well. It's a rougher ride. It's not a suspension setup that's in any way designed for handling. It's much beefier. It can hold a much higher torque. It's less expensive. So if it breaks on the drag strip, you can fix it easier. But turns are not the Shelby's friend. This car weighs a lot. The steering is almost shockingly loose. Body roll, not that much, but this is on Eibach lowered springs, so it's not stock. But it does not give you anywhere near the confidence that other cars in its price range would around the turns. So you were mentioning something about how Carroll Shelby wanted to build the monster supercharged V8 version, but the engineers wanted something that handled better, kind of like the new GT350.
So he wanted the fast, powerful Mustang, so they ended up building the 2013 662 horsepower monster. And after he passed away, the engineers got to do their thing, which is a new Shelby GT350, which is an entirely different kind of car. That is a track performance monster, whereas this is more of a straight line drag strip type of car.
Definitely some serious improvements in the new generation. The independent rear suspension, it's a lot lighter, carbon fiber, even in the wheels in the GT350R, as well as interior upgrades. Let's talk about the interior in this car.
So all Mustangs have had this issue until the recent generation. The interior is all plastic and horribly designed, and it's not nice. This one it's fairly clean, and it's got a few goodies that a normal GT or V6 will not have, but still, literally everything is plastic.
For a 2012 car that costs as much as this did brand new, let's say $55,000 with the SVT package, which this model, this specific car did come with, it's a bit of a joke.
It's horrible.
So you give away the luxury and the beautiful styling, but what you get in return is an insane performance car in a straight line, and a car that looks absolutely badass on the outside. I think this generation of GT500, especially in the 13 and 14, where they did some upgrades to the front grille area, which this car actually has some aftermarket modifications on it. Looks
mean.
Savage. So we had Eddie get in the driver's seat. Just closing the door, this car feels and sounds really cheap. Now, on the passenger seat, there's no, it's not power seat whatsoever. So we've got manual controls front and back, and manual controls for the recline. You have power front and back, but
the recline is also manual.
Recline is manual.
One of my favorite parts of the Shelby is the cue ball shifter. With this car, it only came in a manual transmission, so that's pretty much your only option. Has very short throws, very tight. It's a nice shift feel. I actually enjoy it a lot. It is rather touchy in first gear, though. Not sure if the way this car has been modified, but first gear is very difficult to drive smoothly in.
That exhaust sounds incredible.
I'm learning to love supercharger whine after driving that CTSV.
Yeah, and the Hellcat.
It sounds so good.
It is awesome.
Yep.
The great part about superchargers, unlike turbochargers, is it almost adds to the experience sound-wise in terms of
auditory happiness.
Exactly.
As a recap, here are a few of the things that we love and hate about this car. For love about, the first thing is performance. It had 550 horsepower stock, and in the modified trim that this car is in, 663 wheel horsepower. It accelerates hard.
Another thing we absolutely love about it is the way it looks. Incredibly aggressive. It takes a Mustang, which of this generation was already a decent looking car, makes it way more aggressive.
This is so mean.
We passed some woman who said, that is the manliest car I've ever seen. And I would agree with that.
Yep.
The sound.
This has a modified exhaust and it rumbles, it's loud, you got the supercharger whine, and it sounds like pure American V8. That's what it is.
And it sounds a bit like the Ford GT, to be honest. I mean, it's an iteration of that engine.
Yes.
A little bit more power and run to it.
Fourth thing is the value. Again, as we said, this car brand new was $50,000. It has depreciated a small amount. Again, we talked about how well it held its value, but if you can pick up one of these for $45,000, that is a hell of a performance car for that amount of money.
Of course, there are some things that we hate about this car, one of which is the interior. Like we mentioned before, there's plastic everywhere, it feels cheap, it's not well designed. Overall, very, very unimpressed.
Second off is the way this thing handles, or more so, it doesn't handle. It doesn't like corners, it's heavy, it's not meant for that, but in a car this expensive, you'd wish it would be able to do something around a corner other than just not want to do it.
Lastly, it's incredibly uncomfortable. Part of that is due to a solid rear axle, so every time you go over a bump, the right tire hits the bump, it's going to move the left tire. There's a lot of hopping and skidding, and it's just very antiquated technology. There is a lot more unsprung weight, and because of that, despite not being able to handle well, you don't get the added benefit of having a smooth ride. It's really harsh. We hit some bumps and
not comfortable.
Swore. it's pretty intense.
Overall, it's a cool car. It's a pretty badass car, and if you come into it knowing what you're gonna get, you'll enjoy it.
Absolutely. I mean, the performance for the money is incredible. I don't see these depreciating too much more as well. So this is a car you can pick up on the used market, drive it for a few years and not lose very much money at all. And clearly, like this one, it was a 2012, some modifications on it, 663 wheel horsepower. These cars are capable of nuts performance for not that much money. And it looks awesome.
It looks awesome. Big angry V8, sounds good, and it's got a manual.
Not much to hate about that.
Nope.
Hope you enjoyed this review. Like always, please browse our channel and subscribe. Thank you so much to Ken Emmons for letting us review his car. Check out his Instagram @KenEmmons. Look forward to seeing you next video.